Hello and welcome to my talk about my third track, number 3, from my just released today album, Gothic Organ. This piece is called MOONFIRE, and I was being really cool and creative, so I capitalized it and I put a space between every letter, so it's extra epic and cool sounding with the title. But seriously, just like some of the other ones, this actually had some roots in some Lolita fashion, and the one thing about this is I played around with the name a little bit. The dress that it was inspired by was called Silent Moon, and it's this really cool dress that has like a picture of a big castle and has like a full moon in the background. So I liked that concept, and I also liked this concept from an old video game that my wife and I played called Final Fantasy VIII. And in that game, there's a scene where there's like monsters living on the moon, and there's like this threat that these monsters are gonna come down to Earth, basically. And there's a scene where the protagonist, Squall Leonhardt, is in a spacecraft, and his love interest is kind of like jettisoned from the spacecraft, and she's floating through space, and he has to get on a space chute to jump out into space and save her, and he's like silently drifting because there's no sound in space. And it's this really cool moment because when they get back in to the spaceship, they time it so that this really cool Nobuo Uematsu soundtrack starts playing. So I had that in my mind too. I always like taking pictures of the moon myself, so I kind of combined all these things and thought, what's a cool moon thing? And I thought, MOONFIRE, that's cool. We always think about sunlight, moonlight. So I thought, oh, I'll put fire and moon. This will be a cool name. So that's the genesis of that. It has several different themes to it. I really like this piece. I thought it has a lot of cool parts to it. I like to use a lot of syncopated rhythms, and I played around with doing that on the pipe organ a little bit. One thing you can't imitate that well on the piano, that I will play a little bit of this, but you can't imitate it that well, is using a sustained note in the pedal while you're doing kind of like staccato notes in left hand, even though there's a sustained note. You can do it a little bit with sostenuto pedal on a grand piano, but I'm not going to mess around doing that because I haven't practiced it. But obviously on the pipe organ that would be different. But that was something that was kind of like the technical inspiration for this. I wanted to mess around with doing that kind of a syncopated percussive sound in the manuals in the hands. And like a sustained part in the pedal. So I thought that was cool, and I thought I'll do a lot of kind of fancy 16 32nd notes, some triplet rhythms. I like that kind of syncopation that will make it seem like a game or a movie soundtrack. So that kind of goes back to my description of the inspiration. So on the organ, I start this off with like a trumpet solo pipe, which is like this. Kind of repeat that a few times. I really love playing around with key signature changes without changing the key signature, so it's kind of like a fake out a bit. So I kind of transpose that. And then I kind of move back. Keep you interested. Then I had this kind of like Egyptian Arabian type song thing that I came up with here. That was a really cool theme. I play around with that one for a bit, but it's all building up to this kind of big sustained chords that I wanted to go for with the. And we kind of have more of that, and then I go full on into this really interesting syncopation of the. Finally back to the sustain thing, where I'm on the. Then here's the main crux, where I'm always building to something to keep the listener interested and to keep myself interested when I'm composing, because I'm somebody who needs to stay compelled. You know, I don't like to reuse the same theme too much. I get bored, and sometimes I get told your song sounds like it's more than one song. because of that. But I think that's what I like, so that's what I do. Anyway, here's what I was building to. And I kind of do it lower, but I switch it up a little bit. So a lot more of that going on, and I use some of my other themes again throughout it. So if you like that, if you think it sounds cool, which I think it does, definitely check out the actual album and the actual recording. You'll hear different pipe organ stops that make it even more interesting. I spend a lot of time doing that registration to make it really different. Like I said, I need for my own self. I just like variety, and it keeps me compelled because I've been doing music for so long that it takes a lot to keep me interested. I played so much repertoire in my life that one of the reasons I like composing is probably that, because it just gives me something fresh that I can be compelled by. So if you like all that and you think, oh, I want to hear what all the different pipe organ stops could make that sound like a symphony almost with just one person playing, that's one of the reasons I like organ playing, even though I was mostly a pianist. I kind of grew into enjoying the organ for that reason. I still love piano more though, sorry. But anyway, that is the story behind MOONFIRE. Please check it out. Nicholas Carroll, Gothic Organ. I appreciate it if you go listen and buy. Thank you.